All right, time now to talk politics. We are joined by our Talk Business bloggers, Michael Cook on the far end, Jason Tolbert in the middle here, and we've got Skip Rutherford, Dean of the Clinton School of Public Service. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Let's begin with some of the news of the weekend. Not unexpected, but Governor Mike Beebe endorses Democratic gubernatorial candidate Mike Ross. This is not unexpected. It's a Democrat endorsing a Democrat. They served in the Senate together. They both have the first name of Mike, so you know they got to have something in common. What does this endorsement do for Ross? What does it do for Asa? Michael, you first.
I think it allows the former Congressman Mike Ross to make the case that he is going to be, in a way, serving Mike Beebe's third term. I mean, Mike Beebe is literally one of the country's most popular governors. If he could run for re-election, he would win hands down. So this helps Congressman Ross in terms of, establishing his bona fides. Remember, he's not really known in 3 other congressional districts. So this sort of helps him. It's not going to win the race for him, no doubt about it, but it does help him introduce himself to the voters of Arkansas.
A third term for Mike Beebe?
Well, I think certainly that's what Mike Ross wants. I think he wants to run for that third term of Mike Beebe. Certainly Mike Beebe is very popular still. Obviously you want to try to tap into that as much as you can. The question is, will voters buy it? Is Mike Ross the same thing as Mike Beebe? I think he's going to have a difficult time making that case. I think there's a lot of differences between the two. But certainly it helps him, obviously, a very popular incumbent governor endorsing him. I think it helps him, but I don't know that he completely makes the case that he is the next Mike Beebe.
Skip, you're not only the dean of the Clinton School, but you're also the dean for this panel here because you've been around. You got more.
Double their ages.
You know more in your pinky about politics than some of us do. But do endorsements matter anymore?
They do matter in particular races, and I think where this one is significant, if the field hadn't already been cleared, literally, it's cleared now. And secondly, it's a signal for Beebe to his donors, to his fan base, that Mike Ross is my guy, and that's an early on signal. It'll help Ross in fundraising.
Let's talk about some of the storylines that have kind of developed early. I think we have a graph to pull up on this right here. Our first one kind of looks at Ross versus Asa here. This is what some Democrats are saying about Asa Hutchinson. 0 for 3 in statewide races, not a good fundraiser, high name ID, and this is a reddening state. That's one of the positives that I think is working in Asa's favor here. On the flip side, on our next graph, you've got Mike Ross and what's being said about him, that he's a better retail politician than Asa is when he's out in the field. He's outraising Asa significantly at this juncture of the campaign, but he's got that health care vote that has tripped him up early on. And you got 2010, 2012 elections that are indicating that this state is reddening, might not be moving in that direction. If the election were today, who do you think wins this race, Michael?
Well, right now, based on polling, Asa Hutchinson would win. And at this point in polling, he's supposed to be ahead. I mean, he's ran for office 3 times before. His brother was a U.S. Senator and was on the ballot, the statewide ballot twice. So right now, Hutchinson is ahead because of simple name recognition. So if the election was held today, he would be the favored one. But of course, it's not till November that both these candidates get to make their case. Ross gets to travel the state and make his reasons clear why he should be our next governor.
Well, we'll come back to that. If the race were today, who wins, Jason?
I think Ace is ahead right now. I think he comes in with a vastly different political environment than his previous 3 races. A lot of people like to talk about those 3 losses he has in the past. A couple of those were back in the 90s. The last one was 8 years ago. I think things have changed drastically the last 4 years in Arkansas, so I think it's kind of not really comparing apples and oranges. And I think you're already starting to see some policy differences where Asa is really separating himself from Ross. You saw Asa hint at he's going to get very aggressive in some of the tax relief that he wants to propose, on the particularly on the income tax. Mike Ross is shying away from that. He's saying we might be able to do some small tax cuts if there's a surplus. I think that distinction is a very big contrast from the race Mike Beebe ran. Mike Beebe was very aggressive in some of the tax relief he wanted to give, where Ross is really backing and shying away from that already. I think that contrast is going to help Hutchinson a lot.
He's being a little bit cautious, though.
Well, first of all, this is pure speculation, and it's way early. I mean, this is way early to call this. If I were betting right now, I'd bet on Ross. You could ask Percy Malone and Jay Dickey that have both underestimated him in his campaigns. I think Ross is well funded. I do think Asa Hutchinson, and I admire him and have a lot of respect for him. And I think that the timing is better for him now than it's ever been before. But I think Mike Ross is a superior politician, and I think he prevails.
So let's play out what happens over the next 14 months or so, right? That Mike Ross has the field cleared. Asa Hutchinson still has 2 contenders to deal with in a Republican primary, although they're not super strong. Does getting that primary victory under his belt, does that help Asa Hutchinson, Jason?
Yeah, I think it does help him. You know, neither one of his candidates are really serious candidates. I don't think he is at all concerned about winning the primary. I think the only thing we'll be looking for on primary night is what is the margin? Does he get 70%, 80%? How big is his win? So he'll come out of that with some momentum. People will be talking about his race. He'll get a little bit of earned media because that primary will be going on. So I think actually the primary will almost be like a little bit of a preparation for him. He'll be on television a lot more, be in the press a lot more without having to spend a lot of money during the primary.
Your take, Michael?
Actually, it's a bit of a problem for him. I mean, first of all, Asa is going to win the Republican primary. Just go ahead and bet on that. That's done. The problems are, number one, he's going to have to go a little bit to the right because he has to win by a convincing margin. If he doesn't win by a significant margin, then people start to wonder, why did you lose against these two unknown candidates? And he's going to have to spend a little bit of money in an area that he's going to win anyway. Benton County, Washington County, Sebastian County, those counties are his base. So he's spending money in an area that's not going to help him in a general election. Again, he's going to win. He's going to win that primary, but it's not going to be that big of a deal.
What's your
I
take,
think
Dick?
it's a wash. I think he gets the benefit of the primary campaign. I think you always get your organization fine-tuned. It's been a while since Asa's been on the ballot. You build up your organization. I think that is a really strong benefit. I think that's a plus for him. I think the negative is that he has to spend the dollars and the expectation game of how big is the margin. But I think it's a wash.
All right, let's go. We got one more question before the break here. Let's go to the lieutenant governor's race real quick. Keep it all in the state confines here. Right now, today, if the election were to be held, you'd have John Burkhalter on the Democratic side. You'd have Representative Charlie Collins on the Republican side. Does the R label work against John Burkhalter because he's the Democrat, or does John Burkhalter's money win out in the Democratic race?
Well, first of all, I'm not so sure it's going to be Charlie Collins. I mean, it may be, but I think, number one, if Johnny Key gets in that race, I think you can't underestimate him. He's probably one of the nicest guys in Arkansas politics, and I have a great deal of respect for him. I think if he gets in, you got to watch him. Secondly, I wouldn't underestimate Andy Mayberry. Now, remember, this is a state that has elected Paul Revere and Mark Martin and Patrick Henry Hayes. So when you start talking about Andy Mayberry, there are a lot of people that are going to think Andy of Mayberry. I wouldn't underestimate the guy. He's a great campaigner. You're giving it to Charlie Collins, who is a good politician. I'm not willing to concede that. I think Johnny Key and Andy Mayberry could make a big race out of this. Get it in. Both of them get in a runoff. It could go the other way. So I think that one is still wide open.
Jason?
I actually completely agree with Skip. I think you're going to see a very active Republican primary there. I think Andy Mayberry will probably announce within the next week. I think there's going to be a lot of people who really want to see Johnny Key get in this race. I know there's been a lot of phone calls made this past week. There's been a lot of encouragement for him to run. Skip's right. He's a very nice guy. He's been in the Senate a long time, has a lot of respect on both sides of the aisle. I think he'd be a very strong candidate. And so it really, when you get to the general election, it kind of depends on how the Republican primary slices out. I think that one could possibly even go to a runoff.
Does John Burkhalter, he's strong, he's got money.
Yeah,
I mean, does it matter who the Republican is?
In some ways it doesn't. I've always said, beware of wealthy businessmen who run for lieutenant governor. They always win. You had Jim Guy Tucker, you had Wynn Rockefeller, Bill Halter, and this is a case where if John Burkhalter is willing to spend his money, I mean, look, nobody knows who Charlie Collins is on a statewide level, or John Burkhalter, or Johnny Key, or whoever, but at the end of the day, if you have somebody who's spending $1 million, $2 million of his own money on television, that makes a dramatic difference when the other person has 250, 300,000. You can just overpower. That's how Bill Halter got to be lieutenant governor in 2006.
All right, we got to take a commercial break here. Our political roundtable, Michael Cook, Jason Tolbert, Skip Rutherford. I'm Roby Brock. This is Talk Business. We're back with more right after this.
I was looking for a bank that could best protect my finances.
That shared my passion for my business's potential.
A bank that offered investment expertise,
lending support, insurance guidance.
A bank that delivered full financial support.
That's how I found True Balance.
True Balance.
From my bank.
From my bank.
Delta Trust and Bank, the expertise to meet all your financial needs.
One of the real advantages of electric cooperatives membership is having a voice in our state's energy future.
Not a week goes by without important energy issues making headlines. These are issues that need to be discussed. And you should know that as policies are being developed, the cooperatives are looking out for our members, advocating what's best for you.
We are your friends and neighbors.
We are your local electric company.
The electric cooperatives.
We are
All right, welcome back to Talk Business. We're talking politics with our political roundtable. I've got Skip Rutherford, Jason Tolbert, Michael Cook all with us. All right, the U.S. Senate race. We're 2 weeks into Mark Pryor versus Tom Cotton. Is this a Senate race that is a referendum on Mark Pryor, or is this a Senate race where you have a choice of two candidates and voters are going to have to choose one or the other? Michael, I'll come to you first.
I think it's going to come down to choice between two candidates. Both of these candidates are going to do their best to disqualify the other one, and I think we're probably in for an epic U.S. Senate race that we've not seen since the 1970s when you had all those great races right there. It's going to be a hard fought. I think it's going to be a toss-up at this point in time.
Skip, what do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be a race between two candidates, and I think that Congressman Cotton's going to try to make this about Barack Obama. And if Senator Pryor were smart, he would make it about who's going to be president in 2016. And the fact that in the United States Senate this next term will be 6 years, and you will be working with a new president in 2016, whether that will be a she or a he. I think Arkansas will be very interested in that race.
What's the school that you work for now? The Clinton School. That's right. I got that.
Who's he hinting at? I can't figure it out. But no, Skip makes a good point. But I think that no matter how hard Senator Pryor tries, this is going to be a referendum on him. This is the first time he stood for re-election since his vote on Obamacare. I know Democrats don't like to talk about Obamacare, but he hasn't stood for re-election since he cast that vote. So it's fair that people ask that question. Are you happy with Obamacare? Are you not happy with Obamacare? I think that's what this race is going to come down for Senator Pryor, no matter how hard he tries to deflate it and look at some other some votes that Cotton has cast in the House and try to look at some other things. It's going to come down to that question. We've seen Senator Pryor embrace that vote. He's trying a vastly different strategy than Senator Lincoln tried when she tried to kind of walk a tightrope and kind of was kind of for it but kind of against it. He's embraced it.
But
He
that's
says
about
he
his
is
only
for it.
political path.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and who's to say it's a negative? Because first of all, on January 1, 2014, all these scare tactics that the Affordable Care Act people have been throwing out about you're going to lose your doctor, you're going to lose all this, are going to prove to be untrue. I mean, really and truly, here's the fact. Ages 55 to 64 in Arkansas, the heaviest voting bloc, half of them have pre-existing conditions and have trouble getting insurance. There's going to be a lot of people get the benefits from January 1st, 2014. So we've seen all the spinning of the Affordable Care Act, but we haven't seen the results of people actually getting the benefits, though I have, because in my school and in many other graduate schools, people under the age of 26 are still insured because of their parents, because of the Affordable Care Act. So I would just ask, what do they want to throw out? They want to throw out pre-existing conditions, they want to throw out kids on your parents' insurance, you want to throw out, let's reduce our benefits, let's don't have any lifetime, or let's cap lifetime benefits. What about the Affordable Care Act are people not going to like when they start getting the benefits?
I can tell you they're not going to like their health premiums going up. They're not going to like the fact that their taxes are going up.
Congressman
They're not
Cotton
going to like
has got
a
to
lot of these
explain
negatives
what he's
that
going
are
to
going
replace
on
it
with
with.
Obamacare.
Well, hold on, Jason.
Michael, finish up here.
No, I haven't.
No, go ahead. I'm going to let you come to it, Jason.
But the problem is the Congressman Cotton is going to have to explain exactly what Skip has. Cotton's whole message is repeal it, just get rid of it. Well, like you said, what about these things? When are you going to keep these things? That's a problem for Congressman Cotton, and at a certain point, he's going to have to concede. Okay, yes, the pre-existing condition provision is good. Okay, yes, the keeping your kids on is good. Oh yeah, at a certain point, Cotton's going to have to get himself caught up in a pretzel explaining, well, maybe we can keep parts of it, but then get rid of other. Cotton, his whole repeal message, I think at a certain point, it's not going to be the best message.
You see it easier
Well,
than that.
we got a couple Democrats here that like Obamacare, and I understand that.
Right.
But there are a lot of things that are negative. People's health premiums are going to go up. We've already seen that start to happen. People's taxes are going to go up as a result of this. People are not happy with this. We've seen polling data that shows as many as 2/3 of Arkansans don't like this. And so, Skip does make a point. A lot of this is going to go into effect. If it's great, if it's utopia, then that's going to be good news for Senator Pryor. I don't see that happening. A lot of people are predicting there's going to be a lot of problems with this. And if that's the case, it's going to be very, very difficult for Senator Pryor to overcome this.
And I would come back and say that in Arkansas, what we saw was a very bipartisan solution of a private option that was embraced by both the right and the left. So Arkansas will be dealing with the implementation of a plan that came about with the work of really pretty strong statesmen in the Arkansas legislature.
I got to let it in there. All right, Michael Cook, Jason Tolbert, Skip Rutherford, thank you guys for being with us. We'll put the boxing gloves on and finish this when we get off the set here. I'm Roby Brock. We're back to wrap up right after this.